Once in a while, a camera comes along that just seems kinda dumb. Like, why would anybody buy a cinema camera that has such poor rolling shutter performance? Do you really need a flip-floppy EVF on a camera design that was more stripped down in previous versions that was basically loved by everyone? And most importantly, will you pay for false color? What about false color?
It doesn't have a false color. You can use any Sony monitor, right? You can just click it on the display.
I still want it in the camera though for when I do the mobile.
I understand that.
Small.
Be sure that will you pay for it?
Let's talk about the Sony FX2 and why I think Sony's kind of dumbest camera will probably be a loved cult classic in a couple years. This video is sponsored by Audio. Let's start with all the cool stuff about the FX2 before we potentially rip it a new USB hole. First off is the body design. It takes elements from the FX3 and FX30 design. It's just legendary at this point, but the FX2 is even more refined. There's the new photo video switch that's just slightly more convenient, and some of the buttons are moved around to a more convenient spot, so it's easier to operate the camera with just your right hand. And that's something I don't like about my FX30 and the FX3 because they're the same body, but I have to use both hands to look at the modes and the menu instead of just being able to do it with my right hand only. So that's nice that the FX2 has updated that. Now let's address the EVF on the FX2. For me personally, I absolutely love it, but I have to admit that I'm biased because this is my very first Sony camera that I ever made movies on.
With this new Sony, I'm gonna start taking some great videos.
And maybe that's why I'm liking the FX2's body, is it's very similar. I can kind of just operate it with my right hand and use a nice EVF to get my shots and exposure dialed in. But in a practical sense, I was out shooting a lot of doc style footage with a buddy of mine on a camping trip, and having the EVF in a bright situation is obviously amazing. Like, you can use the screen, it's fine.
What? He just jumped!
But I love being able to kind of close out the world and just focus on my frame, my exposure, my composition. I am out in the absolute wilderness with the FX2 and it's very bright out, so having this kind of a viewfinder is actually so freaking nice today. Throwing me back to the Handycam vibes, but really nice quality. I'm gonna need this on like all cameras moving forward. And I like that it doesn't really take up too much real estate on the body. The top of the camera is still flush when the EVF is down, and you can still use other accessories like the Sony top handle that works with the hot shoe on the FX3, 30, and now the 2. Another thing that's cool from the FX2 is the image. In fact, I would say it's phenomenal. I'm used to the FX30, which has more noise in the shadows compared to the FX3, obviously, and the FX2. It's just a cleaner image and it has that signature Sony sharpness. It's just nice and crispy. I know a lot of Sony shooters really like that. And if you don't like that, like me personally, I like a little bit of a softer, smoother image. You can always just dial that in with pulling down some of the mid detail in DaVinci Resolve, or using the Film Look Creator and dialing in some softness or defocusing just to get that creaminess. You kind of get whatever you want with this camera, and I like that. And overall, the images from the FX2 are much cleaner than the FX30. It's a much higher resolution sensor as well at 33 megapixels. And that's because the FX2 shares the exact same sensor as the Sony a7 IV. Now, I've talked to some friends that have the a7 IV as their main camera, and they've told me they think that it's just got a little bit extra sauce to it compared to other Sony sensors. And I totally get it. After taking this camera out into the real world for a shoot and then looking at the footage in Resolve, it absolutely has like a crispiness and just a nice, rich presence to it. I don't know how to explain it. It's just got a little bit something different under the hood compared to the a7S III, which I owned and operated for years, and the FX30. There's just something a little bit special about it, which makes this camera fun. And the colors overall are beautiful. With all my Sony cameras, when I'm color grading, I do feel the need to tweak skin tones a little bit, and I use the color slice tool in DaVinci Resolve to get that perfect. And you can dial this footage in very heavily. You can really push and pull the image in S-Log3, even though you're not shooting in RAW and ProRes. We'll get into that as well. You still get a lot of flexibility with these S-Log3 files to totally manipulate the colors and the exposure to your liking. Wow, that is so cool. Thanks, Sony.
Like a boy, man. Like a man with a boy's body.
And then overall for cool factor, I would say the FX2 just has a very balanced set of specs. You get 4K up to 60 frames per second. I know, there's a crop, we'll get to it, but you do get slow motion in 4K. You get dual ISO at 800 and 4000, two very usable ISO ranges. You get S-Log 3, you can do S-Cinetone if you just wanna shoot really quick and turn it around instantly without grading. You get IBIS, which is actually very good in the FX2. To me, it feels better than the FX3 and A7S III and my FX30, which has its own unique IBIS system. It really feels like the FX2 has been dialed up a notch in terms of smoothness, and I was getting very usable kind of like body movement panning shots, and I tried to do some e-bike filming too with just one hand with the FX2, filming my buddy Colton, and a lot of the shots were shaky and it kind of accented the rolling shutter problems in this camera, but overall I was able to get some really smooth shots with this camera, and the IBIS is incredibly useful. Also, the FX2 gets Sony's insane AI autofocus chip, and the autofocus performance on the FX2 is phenomenal. Sony just has it nailed, man. I was even using an older Sigma 24-70 Mark I E-mount, not the second version, which is even better with autofocus. But even with this older version lens, it performed incredibly. Like having Colton drive up to me on his e-bike, it just stayed absolutely locked in. He was out fishing and the focus would kind of just choose to stay on him perfectly, even when there was objects coming in front of the frame. But keep in mind, no autofocus system is perfect. I like to have my autofocus set up on a key that I can just immediately press to disable it when I know something's coming into frame and I want to switch it to manual. I actually do that with this focus magnification button so I can go from autofocus to manual instantly and back and forth. It's got a fan for amazing thermal performance. It's not gonna overheat on you. I know there's a lot of overheating controversy in the mirrorless world. It has the updated Sony menu layout, which is incredibly useful for filmmaking. Full-size HDMI, always a lifesaver. Great battery life, same batteries as all the other alpha and compact cinema line cameras. And that 33 megapixel sensor comes in clutch for high quality stills in a pinch. And it actually feels pretty good as a photo camera because of that EVF. And the internal mics actually have pretty good audio, which is the music licensing platform I've been using lately, and their quality just continues to go up, and they have some amazing new features we gotta cover. Don't freaking skip this because it sounds like beauty. And rock and roll. And the best part is audio isn't dumb at all. It's actually very smart. They just dropped Link Match 2.0, and it's kind of insane how fast it makes finding the perfect song for your project. You can take a YouTube link or a TikTok link or even Spotify, paste it into Link Match 2.0, and audio will instantly hunt down tracks for you that match that vibe for your project, and you don't have to worry about copyright. I've been absolutely loving Lecrae's new album, specifically the song Brick for Brick. It just gets me absolutely hyped. I can't use that song in my videos though, so I can just paste this into Link Match and it gives me this. Anyway, if you want to try out audio, use my link for 70% off your pro plan. It is absolutely worth it. It's extremely affordable compared to the competition, but still has, I think, the best quality that you can get right now for music. Or if you want to try Link Match out for free, just go to audio.com/linkmatch and you can paste links in there, see what you get, and see if it's something you want to use in your toolkit. Thank you, Audio, for sponsoring this portion of the video.
Now let's talk about some dumb stuff.
So why is the FX2 kind of dumb? Well, I think at its release, so many of us were expecting an FX3 Mark II. So naturally, we were all let down when we saw a more stripped down or kind of altered, mutated version of an FX camera that had way less specs than we were expecting from an FX3 Mark II. And at that time, Lumix was also dropping some absolute heaters with the S1R2, the S1 II, S1 IIe, and that added even more fuel to the fire of Sony versus Lumix. Imagine this, what if Sony would have waited and dropped the FX3 Mark II and the FX2 at the exact same time? Just like Lumix when they dropped the S1 II and the S1 IIe at the same time. I think this would have gotten so many people stoked. Obviously, we've all been waiting for the FX3 Mark II to see what Sony's up to, But then it would have made the FX2 look like, hey, we care about the little guy as well, or we care about people who can't afford an FX3 Mark II. Here's a little bit more stripped down version and updated body style, but it's still full frame. You can still shoot 4K in slow motion, S-Log3. I think that would have made the FX2 seem like a way better deal, and it would have made Sony get way more praise instead of all the backlash they got. But that's just my thoughts. At the end of the day,
I really don't care.
I'm not here waiting for an FX3 Mark II. Sure, it'll be cool when it comes out, but really don't even talk to me until the FX30 Mark II comes out. Why aren't we talking about this? And yes, but aside from the camera culture dumbness of the situation, what are the FX2's actual weaknesses? The two most obvious ones are the rolling shutter performance. It's weak, you know, compared to the FX3, which has an extremely fast readout speed, but I'm shooting on the S1R2 right now, which also got destroyed for its rolling shutter, but I still think both these cameras, the S1R2 and the FX2, are totally usable. And if you're shooting something super handheld or fast paced with tons of movement, this is not the camera for those kinds of projects. The other huge bummer is the 4K 60 crop, which is kind of annoying on paper, but I will say, I didn't know it had a crop until I researched it after shooting with the camera. When I was out shooting the doc style footage with my buddy in the woods, when I switched to 4K 60, I didn't notice there was a crop. I was using a zoom lens and just kind of quickly capturing beautiful frames to my best ability, and I didn't know it had a crop until afterwards. So some people really care about that, some people don't. Some people actually like it because it gives your lenses more reach in slow motion. I can't choose what you like. And I would say compared to other brands at this time in the market, the FX2 is missing some core features that I just wish it had. Like there's no 4K 120p, and this camera's not cheap. You would kind of expect it to be in this camera. There's no open gate. I know that's a massive discussion right now. I'm not gonna get too far into it, but Sony seems to be kind of avoiding the open gate conversation or waiting on it for some reason. Whereas the Lumix S1 IIe is cheaper than the FX2 and has a ton of different recording options, including 6K open gate. And also the FX2 has pretty limited codecs. Although it does give you really good quality, I would love to see internal ProRes or some sort of RAW capability in a camera that costs this much money. The Nikon ZR is cheaper and shoots internal Red RAW. And I know that's a unique deal they have with Red, but still, they're choosing to make Red RAW affordable, more affordable than the FX2, which is insane. And don't argue with me that this camera doesn't need to have that or shouldn't have that because of the price, blah, 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 whatever, because hey, guess what? My iPhone shoots RAW and OpenGate RAW now, so I don't wanna hear it. Other than that stuff though, I think the FX2 is a pretty dang well-rounded camera, and honestly, I like it. I mean, it's controversial, but please sue me. Here's my information. And once time goes on, the dust settles, and maybe a year or two go by, I think we'll look back on this camera and think, oh, that thing was actually kind of cool. And I'm really hoping that like the body style and the updates, especially the EVF, come to the next FX3 and 30 because I like it. But what do you little goblins think below? Let me know in a comment. Thank you so much to Audio for sponsoring today's video, and make sure to text me when you guys get home so I know you're safe. Please watch out for deer. Follow me on Instagram for short and dumb stuff like this. I've been way more active over there this year. Check out my Patreon. I'm gonna be doing some updates to that soon if you want your names over here. Or join the free Discord server to make some cool camera homies. And overall, remember that you are loved much more than you might even know. God bless you guys, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye!